Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here to share another layout that I got done at the crop when I went away back in October. I brought 48 page kits with me. I ended up doing 42 pages and this is page 29 out of 42. And as you can tell, this has so many scraps and I'm using the scraps in the sizes that they're in, and that's what I love. I didn't even have to think for this layout. It was like, this piece is about, probably 8 by 12. The craft cardstock, I'm going to put that on the background. That other brown flowery paper is probably 5 by 12. I added that to it. The salmon colored paper was almost the right size for my photos, so I added the 2 photos. Then the heart paper behind that, that's the size that it was, and I put the 2 photos on top of that. I love using 3 tags on my layout, and so that they don't look like they're floating, I like to put a little piece of pattern paper or cardstock in behind it, and then it kind of grounds them to the layout. So I already know where I want to put that, so I'm going to put it down. Then before I went to the crop, I had the titles done up for 33 of the layouts out of the 42, and I had them on some wax paper. So as soon as I start my layout, I already know all the titles are done, so I just gotta stick it down. One thing that I did do this time was I actually brought the alphas with me, like I left them in the kit. And I think next time, if I take the time to write out my titles, I'm not going to bring those extra alphas, because it was a lot to bring and I didn't even end up using any of them because I had done all the work. So it's going to be less things that I have to bring with me. So whenever I put those 3 tags together, I always know that's going to be sort of the first place where I'm going to start my first embellishment cluster. So I'm going to use a viewfinder and a tag, and I know there's going to be one there. So then I go across the layout from it, and then I'm like, oh, that's a nice place because it's where 2 pattern papers meet, so it's a nice place to do a little cluster there. So I'm going to do that one there. And usually the third one, I often don't even work on it until the first 2 are kind of nailed in, and I know, okay, yes, this is where I'm going to do it, and I actually glue them down. And once that is done, then I say, okay, where can I add my third one? So I have some almost like go-to methods that I always kind of look at that as how to start, like where to start my embellishment clusters. So definitely where I do my journaling. If there's a journaling block somewhere, I really like using that space to start some embellishment clusters. And those 3 tags that I put side by side, I always make it could be on the left side or the right side, the left tag or the right tag. But I use that one of those tags as the foundation of one of my embellishment cluster. And, depending if in this case I put the embellishment cluster on the right side of the tag, then that cluster that I'm working on right now wouldn't make any sense. So that's why, because the tags were on the left side of the layout, I decided to do my first cluster right there. And I also like to do clusters that are different sizes. So I have what I call like my large cluster, and then I have a medium cluster, and then I have a small cluster. So usually the cluster with my tags usually end up being a large cluster because I have quite a bit of space with that tag. So I like to make a big cluster out of that, and I still have 2 more tags to do my journaling. So I'm totally fine. So once I have my second embellishment cluster, then I say, okay, where can I put that third one? And I also like to put clusters near the cluster of my photos. And the reason I like to do that is because it kind of makes it so that it brings your eye to your photos. And one thing that they say to kind of think about when you're deciding where you're going to put your clusters is make a triangle, like go from one cluster to the next to the next. And it makes a triangle. It doesn't have to be a perfect triangle. It can be a long, stretchy triangle, or, you know, kind of a big size triangle. But when you do that triangle, where are your photos? Are your photos off to the side, not even in the middle of those clusters, or are they smack in the middle? So if you do, you know, that triangle with the placement of my embellishments right now, my two photos are smack in the middle. So automatically it makes it so that it draws your eye to my photos. So when you first start, you know, doing that you actually think about, okay, I gotta work on my embellishments. I can tell you, when I look back at some older layouts that I did, and it looked like I embellishment sneezed on my layout. Do you know what I mean? Like you would just put embellishments like wherever. There was no rhyme or reason. They were floaty. They were just all over the place. So it was like a sticker sneeze. Well, ever since I started doing this where I use some embellishments for my foundation and each embellishment cluster has a spot for it. It doesn't mean that you can't have, you know, little embellishments kind of going here and there, because if you look at my butterflies, they're not touching those embellishment clusters. And, you know, the butterfly on the bottom, he looks like he's coming off the page. That's totally fine because it's one little random one. And if you look at all the other butterflies, they're really close to the embellishment cluster, you know, that they're supposed to be with. And it makes it so that the embellishment clusters look like they have a purpose on the layout. So I really like the way that I've kind of evolved at doing embellishment clusters. And that's why with our digital prints, I really wanted us to focus at the beginning with things that you can use as a foundation. And now we're working more on things that we can use as finishers. And by the way, this layout took me 22 minutes to complete, so not bad at all. But that's it. That's going to complete this layout. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Bye.